Good morning. Wow, I've been so inspired by the music, building a bridge of light. How can anyone ever tell us we're anything less than beautiful? I mean, you can't even, the talk is like secondary to the emotion and feeling in the room. I'm so grateful for this community. I'm so grateful for the heart and the love that we hold. This has been a tough week. We had the Super Bowl last week. We were higher than kites. And then we had the tragedies that have followed that. So I love this song to be strong and to hold the light. And that's the message today, to hold to the highest. And each and every one of us are here by divine appointment, moving in consciousness in the midst of every challenge before us. We have the tools, we have the wherewithal, we have the intention to hold the highest, to know that the love of God is present where we are. So my talk today, I want to just cover some things that help us move to that inspirational place, that place of strength that allows us to hold the light. 1, that there is one life. 2, that we tell that story and retell that story. And 3, that we love who we are. So there is one life. We always say, Ernest Holmes says, there is one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. That's a big consciousness to hold. There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. Now, I was a Sunday school teacher for many, many years, and I would try to get that concept across to kids. And they knew it much better than I did, but they heard it. We know things in our guts, we know things in our heart, but when we hear it, it solidifies and puts the mind and the heart together. And I would talk about the creation story. And in the beginning, there was God. And I'd ask them, where do you come from? And they would say, their parents. So where did your parents come from? Their parents. Well, 20 minutes later, we'd get to, and where did they come from? And it's like, well, we could be going on, and we'd get to God. In the beginning, God. And then we would say, all things came from God, and we would hold that idea. And as we moved with that, we started to embrace the idea, oh, everything comes from God, and we're made of God's stuff. And the idea would move into a very solidified place. So we could then go on with our Sunday school lessons, and we could embrace the idea of who we truly are. So I'm always on that kid level. I love the depth that children take us to, because they're innocent and open. And that's what we're calling ourselves to be in the highest and best good. I know in preparing for this, the idea that we teach is that there is no sense of separation. The highest God and the innermost God are one. So the highest spirit, divine life, that life lives in us. This is a bold statement to really embrace, to not only think it, but to get the message in your own heart. Who we are is an expression of the divine life. And that is something about each and every one of us that is so special to claim it. I just appreciate you sharing about volunteering, because I can say almost probably every hand will go up when I ask the question, were you different after you came to the church in 6 years? Look around. What was the message that we all got that made the difference? The message was who we are, and the idea of God, that God is infinite love. We have lots of names for God. This triggers some people. We have spirit, love, kindness, grace. There's lots of names because we know whatever that divine presence is, it's so big, it's almost incomprehensible. But we can understand it lives in us, breathes us, and actually is us. We are the face of God. Now, if you take that message, you can sound like a lunatic. just to be sure, because I remember getting so turned on, coming to church, hearing that message like a child. It resonated with something I already knew, but I heard somebody say it and say it out loud. Well, then you couldn't stop me from saying it out loud. I was telling, my very traditional Christian family the new news that I had heard. And it was a little bit shocking for them, especially since they knew me so well. That's where the trouble started. But the idea that we have holding the highest, what does it take for us to do that? What does it take to really own? Because we can see all the things that we feel less than, we don't love about ourselves, all the things that are wrong in the world, and especially now, when all the media, all the activity can show us that we're less than. And we see all the craziness being acted out. But the acting out is because there is a sense of separation from God. That's the act out. Once we move our consciousness, we change our thinking, we change our life, we come into the idea of who we truly are, and then that we start to awaken to that. But how do we navigate the awakeness? How do we navigate what we know with the circumstances and the conditions in the world today? How do we make all of those changes? How do we move in a different way? So in the beginning, we were experiencing the one life. And when we tell our story of who we are as expressions of that one life, we say we're inherently good. There's not something inherently bad about us, which has been an old story. It's been an old story in the culture, it's been an old story, a religious story, but honestly, we're in new thought. There is evolution. We have a new thought. The new thought is that we are expressions and we are not separate. And well, this week has been crazy because my granddaughter was visiting, and she was here last week, and she's so lovely. And we were talking about life and sharing all kinds of stories and what her thoughts are. She's 19, just starting out in the world. And she was reading a book on sweetgrass. I don't know the name of that book. Sage always informs me. But in the book she was reading, they were telling different creation stories. And she was reading this beautiful story to me about creation and how God sprinkled the world with loveliness, and geese dropped flowers. And it's from a tradition, and they tell this amazing story. And then she started reading our creation story. Ate an apple, got kicked out, you're never coming back. I was horrified. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that story. But a lot of the world lives on that story, that we're not enough, that we did something wrong, that we were so disobedient, that who we are isn't who we really are. The good news, the highest and best good. Mary, thank you for bringing that to us this morning and reminding us the highest and best good is to remember that we are the place that God shows up. Now, how does that work in our tradition? We do things in our tradition to remember that. We have practices called spiritual practice. Now, last time we had our Going Deeper, Rob gave us a whole list of quotes on meditation. And I've been reading those, and they were fabulous because we were looking at practices that allow us to not only know this, but to experience it. And then when we experience it, people in our lives experience it. But the quote that I liked best from all the quotes at this moment was by Dr. Golden. And it said, "The goal of meditation is not to get rid of thoughts or emotions. The goal is to become aware of your thoughts and emotions and learn how to move through them without getting stuck." without getting stuck. So easy to do. So easy to do. And so for us, we have the spiritual practice of meditating. All those thoughts that say we're not enough, to quiet the mind down. Now, my mind, I'm quiet and I'm thinking, did I pick up that milk? Did I? That's how meditation starts out. But I have to sit longer, and I use breath and breathing. That's what we're taught, to breathe, to take a breath. We did that in our morning meditation with Marianne. We took a breath into our wholeness. And even though that's going on, did I do this? Am I doing that? I don't want to get stuck there. That's the doingness. I'm into the beingness. The moment we meditate, we can just be and be who we truly are. Take a breath and let that go. So that's the practice of understanding and affirming that we live this philosophy. We start breathing in. We know all the stuff. There's going to be stuff. But as we're in the evolutionary process, my granddaughter's 19, I see, I'm at the end of the road, and she's at the beginning. And just getting that sense of evolution, she thinks so far out of the box. She's so down the road. And she's looking at cultural stories and taking it all in and synthesizing it for herself, because she's understanding something in the practice. She's asking about the practice. She's reading something, but how do I live this? So meditation was one of our nice conversations, and prayer. So I just want to talk about what I love the most is prayer. That really is my favorite thing, when I do my practice. So in the idea of really retelling our story and looking at prayer, for us and for me, prayer is change your thinking, change your life. Prayer, you meditate, you get centered, and then you come to your power. Once you're centered in the mind, the busy mind can relax a bit. Then you can get into, wait a minute, if I am made in the image and likeness of God, there is power where I am. That power is divine power. It is the power that created the universe, and it's where I am. I'm not weak. I'm not helpless. There is something that I can do. And if your old story is, me and how bad it is, and I'm helpless and I can't change that, that story has to be retold in a new way. That within me that is spirit can and does all things. This means taking that prayer, that idea, to your health, that in me. So when I'm sick, that in me that knows how to bring forth wholeness is activated. I speak it, I say it, even though I'm coughing. When I say it, by repeating it, by working, I work to hold the highest for myself. If it's abundance, if it's prosperity, the infinite good of God is where I am. It lives in me. It lives as me. Shift the consciousness. If it's, health, it's prosperity, if it's love, that in me that might want to pick a fight with Paul. No, let me get this straight. Let me get that straight. Apologies. That in me that is willing to see another idea, opinion, a greater something is at work right now. I surrender my own idea to be right. I surrender my own and listen to something and allow that divine spirit to know the truth in this situation. See, it's all there. It's all there. And it's calling us to be who we truly are. And that is holding the highest. So with that in mind, we use the tools of meditation and prayer. The thing I would love to say is there is no absence of good because there is no absence of God. The omnipresence of God. God is everywhere, in and through everything. Therefore, there is no lack of good. So wherever the lack is in my own mind, in your mind, this is the practice of moving in the evolutionary awareness that we're moving to drop the old story, kicked out of a garden, don't you? And that, you're out in the world and there's a new genesis. Like if I look at my computer and see the bite out of the apple, I always think it's a new day. I'm going to rewrite the story. Okay, that might go this way over. But so there is that. And the other point that I had in mind, we love who we are. And I'm going to read something that was written by a woman, Alison Macmillan. And she said, this just moves me. I'm going to read this slowly because some of these points are going to touch you. She said, when I loved myself enough, I quit settling for too little. When I loved myself enough, I'd come to know my own goodness. When I loved myself enough, I begin to know I was in the right place at the right time, and I can relax. When I love myself, I feel compelled to slow way down, and that has made all the difference. When I love myself enough, I come to love being alone, surrounded by silence, awed by its spell, listening to inner space. When I love myself enough, I came to know I am worthy of knowing God directly. When I love myself enough, I begin to see I didn't have to chase after life. If I am quiet and hold still, life comes to me. If I love myself enough, my heart became so tender that it could welcome joy and sorrow equally. When I loved myself enough, I started meditating every day. This is the profound act of self-love. When I loved myself enough, I stopped trying to banish the critical voice from my head. Now I say, thank you for your views, and they feel heard. End of discussion. When I loved myself enough, I lost my fear of speaking my truth, for I have come to see how good it is. I came to feel like a gift to the world. When I loved myself enough, I began listening to the wisdom of my body. It speaks so clearly through its fatigue, sensitiveness, aversions, and hungers. When I loved myself enough, I quit rehashing the past and worrying about the future, which keeps me in the present where aliveness lives. When I loved myself enough, I gave up perfectionism, that killer of joy. Instead, I seek the grace and beauty in all life. When I loved myself enough, I could feel God in me and see God in you. That makes us divine. Are you ready for that? We're holding the highest and best good. It's the work we do together. It's the way we bless each other and the way we bless ourselves. Who we are makes all the difference in the world. These are challenging, challenging times. And everything in the culture could take us in a different direction. And my prayer for all of us is that we stay steady, we stay strong, we stay together, you two live streamers, and for our ministers who are having a time with their family, so many blessings to Sandy and Kirk today. Let's stay together, stay strong, and just know who we are is the highest and the best. God bless us all. Thank you.